depends on where you are in your journey, but I think, the key is to know you. And we talked a little bit about uniqueness early in the show. You really have to understand what drives you, what makes you happy, what makes you better as a leader. Listen to yourself, obviously take the input of others, but ultimately it's your business and you get to control the direction and do what's right in your heart and what's right with you and the way you work.
Welcome to the Pivotal Leader Podcast with Gina Tremarco, featuring lively interviews with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their stories and best practices for shifting business from problems to profits. Sit back and get ready to pivot.
Hey, this is Gina Tremarco, Chief Results Officer of Pivot 10 Results, a strategy and training company that helps businesses shift from people problems to performance results. Each week on The Pivotal Leader, I feature inspirational leaders who know how to positively impact their customers, employees, and brands through culture building. For in-depth sales strategies content, check out our other podcast, Women Your Mother Warned You About, with my co-host Rachel Pitts. On this episode of The Pivotal Leader, I interviewed the Our Shawn McBride. Yes, I said the Our Shawn McBride. We'll talk about that in a second. He is a corporate lawyer licensed in 12 states and Washington, D.C., and is a CPA licensed in 3 states. He heads the Our Shawn McBride Law Firm, PLLC, a corporate law boutique, and McBride for Business, LLC, a business strategy firm where he is often called upon to speak or consult on the future of business. He's the author of Business Blunders, which showcases common business mistakes to avoid, and 3 other books. He is also the host of the Future Done Right show on YouTube, where he interviews guests from around the world on the dynamics of the future of business and the changes business owners might anticipate. I am privileged that I am a guest on that show, and you should go check that out on YouTube and you can hear that interview. His passion is helping business owners build and execute business plans that enable them to live the lives of their dreams. He believes the key to successful business plans and lives is embracing strengths and uniqueness. And I asked him specifically about this in the interview because he is very unique. His extensive experience in the sales arena comes from running his multiple businesses and being called upon repeatedly to help sales organizations increase their sales results. Sit back and enjoy this interview with our Shawn McBride. You're going to learn some great stuff about business planning and accounting and financials and blunders to avoid and what's coming in the future. So really great show, really great things to take away and consider. All right. Well, before I officially welcome our guest to the show, I need to address the best way to address the Our Shawn. Am I addressing you as the Our Shawn?
The Our Shawn is fine, yes. Everybody calls me Shawn. The Our Shawn is really used for our printed materials. It's differentiate me. There's a couple other speakers named Shawn McBride. So I started using my first initial, R. Shawn McBride. And then people in my audience started using OUR Shawn McBride. And so that's where that came from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I read that in your bio, and so I wanted to kind of start the show that way so when people go, why is she calling him Our Shawn or the Our Shawn? But I'll call you Shawn.
Yeah, just everybody calls me Shawn informally. It's just we use the Our Shawn in printed materials in recognition of kind of what the audience knows, and then to differentiate me from the handful of other Shawn McBrides in the world.
Well, yeah, that is a pretty common name.
It is. I mean, you pair the two together. My first name's not that uncommon. Last name's not that uncommon. And turns out there's a couple other speakers running around with that name.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Luck of the draw.
You're probably the most unique looking.
I think so.
I mean, because of the way you're dressed, not.
No offense was taken.
That almost came out wrong. You believe that the key to successful business plans and lives is embracing strengths and uniqueness.
Yes.
And I think that's why my co-host Rachel Pitts on our other podcast, Women Your Mother Warned You About, well, that was one of the things that we love about you. And we've actually talked about it just one-on-one without you in the conversation about your uniqueness and embracing, like, every time I see you, I don't know who your tailor is or where you shop, but you always have the most interesting jacket on.
Yeah, nobody. Well, I have about 15 of these, so it's hard to predict what I'll be wearing on any given occasion.
What got you started doing that? I'm curious.
It was an evolution. So, the uniqueness theme and the uniqueness in business has been there for a while. It was always part of my business planning work and speaking. So I've done business planning for a long time. Started my career working at big law firms doing, stock offerings and other things connected to business plans. And one of the things we always seen was people wanted management teams that could get it done. They were looking at the uniqueness of the management team that was running the company. Fast forward, and I started my own law firm and started working with business owners on getting their money raised. And it always came down to what's unique about you. And then fast forward to starting my business strategy firm. So I have a law firm and then I have this business strategy firm. The business strategy firm, when it started, one of the first things we started talking to people about is what's your uniqueness in your business plan? Why are people going to invest in you, not in other people? Why are people going to buy from you, not from other people? So this uniqueness theme was in all my work and it was in everything I was doing, but I never had a visual for it. And then I stumbled into it. A couple of years ago, I went to a holiday party and I bought one of those unusual Christmas suits, and
Yep. See, I've seen them.
Everybody loved it. So I had people at the holiday party. Everybody wanted to come over and take their picture with me. People. We were at a restaurant area with like an outdoor space, and so all these people started coming over, and random strangers are talking to me, and they want to take pictures with me, and it kind of just opened something up, and we started talking about it. And then the other interesting thing is, these people come over to talk to you, and a lot of times I want to talk about what's unique about them. So it really opened up this whole theme of uniqueness. So that's how it started, and it kind of stuck. It evolved from there. Once I saw that was working, I'm like, I have a visual that gets people thinking about being unique and being different and embracing their difference in business. And so just kind of opened it up and started wearing the suits all throughout the year.
Is there anywhere in particular? I know this has really got nothing to do with like the pivotal leader and leadership, but I'm like so intrigued. Is there like somewhere special that you go to shop for your jackets?
I order most of them online. A lot of them come from one company in particular. So, they are like, they have a great variety of them. So a lot of them come from that one brand, and then some will just come randomly. And now that I wear the unusual suits, I'll get a lot of emails or text messages from people I know that will find unusual suits places. And I'll get the text message like, this store has this unusual suit, are you interested or whatever? People are locating this stuff for me now, so it becomes very easy.
That's awesome. Well, unique selling proposition is so important in business, and we are going to have you on our other show, The Women Your Mother Warned You About, and we're going to talk more about sales on that show. On The Pivotal Leader today, I want to talk more on the business end of things, because when we had our very first conversation, I found you really interesting that you went from a law practice to consulting on the future of business.
Yes.
And what I'd like to first talk about is, can you tell our listeners and myself more about what does that mean, consulting on the future of business?
Well, I think we've hit an interesting place. So as I mentioned earlier, I've spent a lot of time in my career on business planning. That's kind of the thing that keeps coming in there, right? Building business plans, offering documents for capital raise, investor pitch decks, kind of all the things that go into getting a company money and then moving them forward. Looking at business plans today, I will tell you that we have a lot of disruption coming, right? I know most of our people out there are probably feeling it. A lot of people are in business because they got disrupted, right? Their job ended. The company they were working for went out of business. I've worked for a law firm that went out of business at one point in my career, so I felt it. I've seen it. I've seen companies go through struggles. So a lot of people have been disrupted, and we have more disruption coming. I think we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg on the amount of disruption that comes. And so I think it's critical now as we build business plans, we don't just build business plans like we used to, which is we look at the market and we see what market opportunities there, and then we build a business plan to capture that market opportunity. That's the first cut of a business plan, I think, in the future. What we really need to be doing is looking not are we where are we now, but where are we going? So as Wayne Gretzky would say, skate to the puck, right? Where's the puck going to be, right? You're not building your business plan to go where the market is today. You're building your business plan to be where the market's going to be in 5 years, in 10 years. So you really have to have this comprehensive understanding of all the forces that are coming. What new technology is coming online? How is the marketplace evolving? What demographic trends are happening? What social and regulatory things are happening? We all are getting tasked with understanding the broader market so that we can tailor our business plans to find opportunities that are profitable for us.
What are some changes that you think business owners should be anticipating over the next couple of years? Are there any trends that you see coming?
Yeah, definitely. So blockchain is coming. And a lot of big players are starting to experiment with blockchain. A lot of small players are starting to make money in blockchain. This technology for understanding how accounting is recorded, how transactions are recorded, it is a fundamentally new way of doing things. One person has estimated that 90% of auditors are going to lose their jobs in the next decade because the auditors won't need to do the work that they're doing now, right? So when you send an accountant in there to double check all your books, in a blockchain world, that becomes so much faster and so much easier that people may be losing their jobs.
What does blockchain mean for those who don't know that?
So blockchain is, the fancy word for it is distributed ledger technology, which gives you some clue of what it is. Essentially, what you're doing is recording transactions in multiple locations simultaneously. Right now, typically a transaction is recorded on a single database, right? So you buy something at Walmart, it goes onto the Walmart database. And then that Walmart database might be copied and replicated for backup purposes, but there's essentially one database. In a blockchain world, you create multiple copies simultaneously, usually in different geographies around the world. So the impact is when something is recorded on the blockchain, and we use cryptography and other things to make sure it really was recorded when it was recorded, we know it was recorded at that time. So it creates a huge verification and tracing effect. And it allows us to do much more than what we do now. And the other thing with blockchain is you can interlock records, right? So as property is transferred from a vendor to the purchaser and then put on the shelf, you can trace it all the way through. So mentioned Walmart before as an example, but Walmart's doing blockchain for food and food safety. So we've all seen like the lettuce scares, right? A piece of lettuce gets contaminated and suddenly every piece of lettuce in the whole country is taken off the shelf. In a blockchain world properly integrated, you'll be able to trace where that piece of lettuce came from using perhaps a three-dimensional barcode or other ways, and you'll know exactly which pieces of lettuce to pull off the shelves. And that way you don't have to pull every piece of lettuce in the entire country. The efficiencies of this are huge, which is why the big players are behind it, right? You can save a lot of money, right? When Walmart doesn't have to throw away all the lettuce in the entire country, they can just throw away the contaminated lettuce. That saves a lot of money.
Wow.
And so that technology is coming in a big way. It's getting forced from the big companies down because it is so efficient. We've all got to be paying attention to this because at some point this will start hitting bigger and bigger adoption. And I guarantee you, if you're selling into Walmart or Amazon, who are both big into blockchain, or if you're down the stream from somebody that's selling into Walmart or Amazon, they're going to want blockchain because their customer is saying you must use blockchain. So it's going to start working its way through the economy here in the next couple of years.
And for a smaller business, what should they be doing to prepare for that?
You need to be looking at how can I get into this technology, right? So you're going to need a supplier or vendor if you're attached to somebody directly or indirectly, right? So if you know that your customers sell to Walmart, then you've got to start thinking about this. If you're down the chain. If otherwise, it's a disruption opportunity, right? How is this going to change the market? Where are things going to go? Where, if you're servicing accountants, for instance, and 90% of them are going to lose their jobs because blockchain and audits become more efficient. Well, you may not want to be servicing as many accountants in a decade, right? So if that's your market segment and you're targeted on accountants, you need to know this because the accounting industry is looking like it's going to have massive changes in the next 10 years. So for a lot of us, we need to be looking broader. We need to understand what is going on in the big picture. So we got to understand whether our piece is still going to stay the same as it is, or whether we're safe, or whether we need to start making changes now. And so you really got to look at your business. You got to look at the probable disruptions coming and where does it go.
Oh, well, you've taught me something new today. So I'm sure you've taught some of our listeners something new too. Any other things that you see on the horizon that we should be preparing for?
There's a lot of examples out there. It's industry by industry. The other big one is self-driving cars. And there's a lot of debate about when this is going to hit critical mass. We're starting to see some testing in the self-driving trucks. Let's just pull the thread of what does an economy look like with self-driving tractor trailers, right? Because we can stick these things on the interstates. We've had some incidents with pedestrians and self-driving cars, but on the interstates, that's less likely because we don't have pedestrians generally. We start moving stuff overnight without having a driver involved. That means the drivers aren't stopping at truck stops. They're not stopping at hotels. They're not buying food along the way. Stuff can go farther faster. Maintenance of the trucks becomes easier because we don't have humans stopping and starting. We have a computer that's driving very smoothly. That's what we need to look at, is there's these big technologies that are coming that have these huge ripple effects. And each of us are caught up in that ripple, right? So you're sitting there saying, well, I don't care about blockchain. I don't care about self-driving trucks. I'm not a truck driver, or I'm not an accountant. But if you invested in that truck stop that sells to truck drivers who stop while they're filling up their, hundreds of gallons of gasoline, truck drivers are not stopping at the truck stop anymore because there's less truck drivers, right? They don't have to take a break and rest overnight. That truck stops, gets fuel, keeps going, not even a human involved, right? There's probably now have to go back to either an automated fill-up system, or maybe we do create some jobs for people who are going to be service attendants who are going to put the gas in the trucks, but we've taken the truck driver out of the equation. So we've got to look at these huge ripple effects that are coming from these technologies, because they're disrupting a lot.
So really with any innovation, we have to plan for disruption, and we need to think about what we're going to do about it.
Right. And just the pace of disruption is becoming faster, right? So we've got, and part of what's driving this is the computers, right? AI, machine learning has really gotten good. The machines are learning from themselves. Self-driving cars, we're building massive databases of situations. You'll see some of them out there. They're collecting data on all these problems, right? So we had the self-driving car hit a pedestrian in Phoenix, back in 2018. Okay, it happened, right? But then we get data from that. And then all these other self-driving cars are building these massive databases, and it's speeding up the speed of the innovation, which means we all got to be looking at disruption and where we're headed, because sitting in the same place, there's going to be changes that are going to ripple into our business. We should know that the ripples are coming before they come, and we should be moving ahead of them rather than waiting to get disrupted.
Okay, I think that's all we can really handle of new things coming up. I'd like to switch over and talk about, you've written a book called Business Blunders, which showcases common business mistakes. I'd like to hear what some of those common business mistakes are that you've seen, and maybe some solutions.
Yeah, so the genesis of that book is really to be a checklist for business owners. It came from a frustration point of being an attorney, and some of our clients call us ahead of time, and those are the ones we can help the most. And some of our clients show up after they have a problem. So Business Blunders was really written because people kept showing up with similar problems at my office. And I said, well, why don't we just write down what the common problems are in hopes that some business owners will actually read in advance and get it. So I profiled 10 very common mistakes that I saw. And, one of them, for instance, is limited liability company, right? So it's great. Form a limited liability company to protect your assets. That's pretty standard advice. You'll see that all over the internet. Separate your business assets from your personal assets in case you get sued. That's the first step. Where a lot of people make a mistake is, and they're not careful about how they word contracts and how they sign agreements. And if you are not careful about making sure that everything's named in the name of your LLC, that all your LLC expenses flow through your LLC, all your revenue for your LLC goes through your LLC, keep all your personal assets, personal liabilities separate as well. We see a lot of people make mistakes in the clerical parts of this after the fact. And then what happens? Well, you get sued, and if they have a good lawyer, that lawyer is going to attack your personal protection, right? So we formed the LLC, we did all the hard work on the front end, and then now we've got somebody attacking it because we didn't keep the books the right way, because we had some expenses that got put into the wrong account, because we used the wrong credit card for some of our expenses. So you got to be very careful on the back end of that. So that's just one of the examples.
What's your opinion on, as an LLC, forming as an S-Corp and going off your LLC and going the S-Corp route?
So one of the nice things, and this happened, I don't know, a decade ago, maybe more, the IRS got friendly, believe it or not, and actually said, okay, well, you're an LLC, you're a corporation, you are whatever you are under state law. And so there were a lot of people making decisions. Do I form an LLC? Do I form a corporation? Do I form an S-Corp? And all this was getting to be driven by taxes, right? So so you picked which one you were in because of taxes. The IRS came out with what they called a check-the-box regulations, which basically says, if you're an LLC, then you can check a box and you can say, I'm an LLC, but I want to be taxed as an LLC. I'm an LLC, I want to be taxed as a corporation. I'm an LLC, I want to be taxed as an S corporation, right? So you can pick which box you're in. And for a lot of people, particularly service-based businesses, you can pick up some benefits by being an S-Corp versus being an LLC for tax purposes, right? So an LLC straight flows through. That's nice. If you don't do anything special, don't make the election. If it's a single owner LLC, it will just flow through to your tax return like there is no LLC. And that's simple. But then you lose some possibilities for deductions, some stuff you can do with with Medicare, Social Security withholding, some other things. There's some planning you can do with an S corporation if you play within the tax rules, where you can potentially save yourself some money. So a lot of LLCs will end up electing to be taxed as an S corporation, and then if you follow the IRS rules correctly with respect to how you pay yourself a salary and how all that works, you can potentially save some tax money.
So check with your CPA and your attorney.
You really got to do some modeling here. That's what it boils down to. You got to figure out where you're at now, what your projected income is, what other assets and income you have, do some projections. For a lot of people, the S corporation makes sense, but you got to make sure it makes sense in your particular situation with the way your numbers flow. Yeah. And also, you've got to make sure you follow the rules. You know, like an S corporation, one of the basic rules is you got to pay yourself a reasonable salary, right? And that's based off what somebody would be making doing a similar job in another company, right? So you can't game the system completely and pay yourself a $2 a year salary.
Right.
The rest can come in and audit you for that. So you've got to make sure that you're doing things properly. A good CPA will understand that. A good attorney will understand kind of how to do the structuring. And it gets a little bit complex, but it can definitely be worth it in your tax savings over the years.
Great. Thanks for that, because I think that's something that comes up as a point of confusion for a lot of smaller entrepreneurs on which way to go.
It's a very common question. I just had somebody email me last night, a friend of mine, and they're like, what should I be, an LLC, a C corporation, or an S corporation? And I said, well, I got to look at your situation. I can't just, it's not one or the other. It's what works for you, given all the numbers and what you're doing.
Makes sense. Let's do one more blunder.
Okay. The other big blunder, another one out there, is partnership agreements. So I do a lot with partnership agreements. People jump into business with other people. They usually have, exciting ideas about building business together. They never stop and talk about the what ifs. And I have 4 Ds that I tell people to always deal with in a partnership. And that's death, disability, divorce, and disagreement, right? So you always got to run through that what if analysis with your partner. What if one of us dies? What happens? We've had situations with partnerships where one of the partner dies and then their spouse shows up and now wants to participate in the business. That can get awkward for the other partner. What if you disagree? I mean, there's times in business, especially when the business grows, where you hit unanticipated forks in the road. What if you want to go different directions on that fork? Who gets paid out what? How do we keep the business alive without going through a lot of litigation? What if somebody gets disabled? And then, what if we have, some type of other event, right? What if one of the people gets divorced? What happens to the ownership of the business? So these types of planning scenarios, you do them in advance, talk through it with your partner, then document what you want to do. And it's simple then, right? If one of these things happen, you had the plan, you know what to do, and everybody feels like they were treated fairly. Problem is, a lot of people don't do the planning. Then one of these situations happens and the partners have different ideas on what's fair. And then that's how you end up in the courthouse wasting tons of money.
Well, you've taught me yet another new thing.
Well, it's my pleasure, Gina. This is fun.
This will be good for Rachel and I to talk about the 4 Ds on our Women Your Mother Warned You About partnership.
I recommend you run through it.
I think we're going to have to do that. Speaking of like all these accounting things, you went from what came first, the lawyer or the CPA?
Yeah,
I don't know when you sleep.
I studied accounting first, and before I graduated with my accounting degree, I knew that I didn't want to spend my entire career as an accountant. So I had already taken some survey courses in business law. I really resonated with it. I liked it. So that's kind of how that happened. But because I had a degree in accounting and I was okay at accounting, I went into the CPA exam, got my CPA license, and it's been valuable for me. A lot of my work is financial based. I don't actually practice as a CPA. I don't do true CPA work, but I get a lot of financial based analysis, look at numbers of companies, help them put together financial statements, et cetera.
I think what a great asset, because especially anytime I've asked my CPA a question, it's like, well, go ask your attorney, and then I'll ask the attorney, and the attorney says, go ask the CPA, because they know they're going to say they're sticking in their lane. Right. But sometimes I want to lock them in the same room together to have a conversation.
Fair enough. Yes. And I get that. But yes, I mean, the two interplay together, the financial side of your business and the operational side, they do interplay with each other. I feel lucky because so much of my work has been around raising money for companies, putting together financials, doing financial projections. I'm at least conversant in that, right? I don't do it every day. I'm not, I wouldn't do an audit. I wouldn't sign off on somebody's financial statements, but I at least know what's going on. So it helps facilitate the conversation with a lot of my clients.
Oh, that's great. Your Business Blunders book,
yes.
Where can people get that?
It's available on Amazon. So, and then also McBrideBook.com. Either way, either route will get you to a copy of Business Blunders.
So we'll put that in our show notes. Okay, so my next question for you is, how does Shawn do it all? Because you do a lot. Like, I sometimes am exhausted. People say I exhaust them when they see me putting a lot of stuff on social media and really being out there, but you have so much going on. When do you sleep?
I sleep every night. Sleep well. I do. I mean, I have a lot of spreadsheets, and there's a lot of spreadsheets. So my life is spreadsheet driven. A lot of stuff is recorded and tracked, so I know where things are going. I know where different projects are at different times because everything's marked. So there's a lot of systems and processes behind the scenes. When you don't see Shawn, there are systems and processes driving that. And
that's what I was going to ask is, what is your system and process? Because we know that entrepreneurs have a lot to do and take on a lot, but do you have any tips or strategies on how to have the best process? I mean, I know that could be a whole other show.
A whole other show, but for me, I know what's critical for me. And social media, that's important to me. That is how I meet a lot of people. That's how I keep in touch with people. That's where a lot of my leads come from. So over time, that's become very important. My law firm, a lot of people ring the phone, not because I'm out promoting my law firm, but because they remember me because they see me somewhere.
Right.
With my business strategy firm, a lot of my speaking engagements come because somebody saw an article that I wrote, or they saw something I posted, or they said, "Hey, can you come cover this topic?" Just did a speech the other night on blockchain, right? I network with people on blockchain largely through online channels, and then they say, "Hey, come speak about this." So I'm very intentional about that. So my content is scheduled. I know what I'm going to cover when. I have a couple of YouTube shows, again, on a schedule. Everything is kind of systematized. Do this now, do this now, do this now, to keep the flow going, to keep my name out there, to keep building the relationships that lead to the work on the back end. So for me, it was about, it takes experimentation, and I adjust it from time to time, but I know what my key activities are. I know how many articles I want to write to get on medium.com, and that gets me some first level analysis. And I know how many shows I want to do and what I want to release. And that all builds together, right? And then a lot of my work is interconnected. So I encourage people to think about how can you interconnect stuff. Everything I do is related to future of business. So as I'm doing my shows and learning from people and giving great content to help other people, I'm also learning stuff that makes me more relevant as a speaker, that makes me better at my job, right? So I've interconnected activities so there's not a lot of wasted time. I'm learning from you being on your show. I've gotten to know you and your audience. That helps me be better at my other work. So you'll notice with me, and I hope other people are doing the same thing. Everything's interconnected. Everything plays on each other and helps everything be better as a whole.
What's one piece of advice that you could give to an entrepreneur before we wrap up the show?
Depends on where you are in your journey, but I think, the key is to know you. And we talked a little bit about uniqueness early in the show. You really have to understand what drives you, what makes you happy, what makes you better as a leader. And then the other thing that I see a lot of entrepreneurs get lost on, this themes come up a lot, is this pinballing where you start getting advice of other people. So you do want advice of other people. You do want their input. You want their criticism. You want their suggestions. But at the end of the day, it's your business, right? And I had to pull an entrepreneur aside a while ago and tell him, it's your business. You ultimately have to make the decision, because they were getting confused because they had one advisor saying to do one thing, another advisor saying to do another thing. They wanted to do a third thing, and they were like, I'm caught in the middle. And I said, no, you're not caught in the middle. It is your business, right? You get to pick the direction. You're responsible for the financial outcomes of the business. You're responsible for what happens. So, for the entrepreneur out there that's building the business, listen to yourself, obviously take the input of others, but ultimately it's your business and you get to control the direction and do what's right in your heart and what's right with, with you and the way you work.
That's really great advice. I don't think anyone ever really pays attention to how important that is. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by not just hearing what everyone else is saying, but comparing yourself to other businesses and running after the next shiny thing because you think that's what's going to work. But at the end of the day, if you don't know yourself, I think that's a huge challenge that entrepreneurs just get so blindsided on.
Exactly. We want to listen and we want to get better. And this particularly happens with the newer entrepreneurs, right? As you become a little more seasoned, you're used to getting suggestions and you're used to saying, I can't do everything. And I know which direction I'm going. I know what's working. New entrepreneurs, and unfortunately, there's some people out there that prey on those new entrepreneurs. They often want to listen to everybody, but you can't do every strategy. You have to pick your strategies. You have to pick your way of doing things, and you have to stick to it some, even if you get some advice from some successful people tell you to do it the other way. So,
and you have to give everything that you try some time. I see entrepreneurs jump from horse to horse and start spinning in circles.
Yes. A lot of it, I think, can be thought of, build your strategy, know where you're going. I tell people to pick their 5, 10-year goals in advance, know where you want to be in 5 or 10 years. Now you know where you're headed. And then everything in between becomes tests to get there, right? So you keep the vision strong. You build processes along the way, but you're going to keep testing and improving those processes. And you might have to change, and that might mean shifting some of the details, but you keep the eye on the vision and you keep constant progress to the vision, but be okay with adjusting. But like you say, you don't want to adjust too fast, right? You can't just keep throwing stuff out every week and trying something new.
Yeah, you got to be able to, we're Pivot 10 Results, so we're always preaching you got to be able to pivot at the right time. If people want to connect with you, this is your opportunity to say, where can they go to? What shows do you want them to watch on YouTube? What's the best way to connect with Shawn?
Yeah, go check out my Future Done Right YouTube channel. That's kind of my signature show. We bring guests on and we interview them about the future of business. We take a very broad view. You'll start learning a lot about the trends that are coming. I think if you watch enough episodes over time, you'll start getting a feel for business. So that's the Future Done Right show. YouTube channel recently turned into a podcast, so we're moving a lot of the episodes over into a podcast format so you can consume them wherever you are, whatever device you have. So we've opened that opportunity up. You can also check me out at Our Shawn McBride on LinkedIn. So that's my linkedin.com/the letter R, Shawn McBride. This is another great way to connect with me. And at futuredoneright.com, you can get a free business planning guide, some other giveaways there, and then get on our email list to get even more tips on the future of business.
Cool. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. I always like to have our guests say it, for those audible learners, and then we'll put it in the show notes so people can connect with you. It's been so great having you on the Pivotal Leader today, Shawn.
Thank you for having me. It was enjoyable.
Yeah. I love working with you. I know we have other things going on together,
yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So thank you.
Looking forward to some more stuff.
Awesome. Well, it's time for us to wrap up the show. We will put, like I said, all of the contact information for Shawn, also known as the Our Shawn McBride, in our show notes so that you can find that. Thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. Before I sign off, a couple of reminders. Check out my other podcast, Women Your Mother Warned You About, the podcast that makes sales sexy again, with my co-host Rachel Pitts. We talk all about sales and business development, and we talk about what it's like being a woman making all of that happen. Sometimes we talk about beauty tips, or being a dog mom, or a mom, or just being the woman in the room amongst a group of men. That's reality. So check that out. Some really great sales experts that come on that show as our guests. And we've released Pivot 10 Results. We've released the beta version of Spontaneous Selling 1.0, the video series, 10 short videos on how to apply improv skills in selling. Basically, how to be more human with other humans. Find the link in our show notes and use the code PIVOTAL to get this program for only $29. If you're not a reader of show notes, just find your way to pivot10results.com, pull down the solutions menu for sales solutions. And until next time, if you want to maximize, you need to improvise. Now it's time for that really cool voiceover guy to take us out.
You've been listening to The Pivotal Leader with Gina Tremarco, owner and founder of Pivot 10 Results and Carolina Improv Company. You can find show notes for this episode on our website at thepivotalleader.com. The Pivotal Leader is a production of Pivot 10 Results, a strategy and training company that helps businesses shift from people problems to performance results. If your company needs help pivoting to success, visit pivot10results.com or email Gina at gina@pivot10results.com. And until next time, if you're feeling stuck in your business, it's probably time to pivot.